Okay, so this is going to be a tutorial showing how to make a blueberry pie like this, with the texturing and the shading. And I've had a request on the previous charm video that I uploaded. So yeah, this is what you'll need to start with. You'll need some tan clay, which you can make yourself by mixing white with a small amount of chocolate brown and some yellow. And you'll need some dark blue clay for the blueberries. This is obviously for the crust. And you'll need a container like this to mix the TLS in. This is just an old cap off a deodorant can that I had. And then you'll need some toothpicks as well to texture the pie crust with and to mix the TLS for the filling. You'll need a toothbrush if you want to put like chalk onto your charm to make it look more realistic, preferably one which has got like soft bristles, because then it doesn't dent the clay so much, not unless that's the effect that you want to go for. You'll need a rolling pin to roll out the clay unless you have a pasta machine. And you'll need some liquid polymer clay. I'm just using Bacon Bond, but it works the same as TLS or liquid Vimo. And lastly, not quite, you'll need an eye pin and some chalks. I've just got these decorating chalks that you can use if you want to make your pie look more realistic. So to start with, you're going to need to roll out your tan clay so that it's not too thin, because otherwise your pie won't hold its shape. So you need to be about that thin and try and get it as neat as possible. And then with a blade, I forgot to mention that you need a blade, but then like cut it into kind of a triangle like this. And take the sides back a bit so that you should end up with a shape like this, which is a triangle and it's got square edges towards the back. And on that, where the lines stop curving and turn into a square, you'll need to make a little cut across the top so that you know where to fold it. And then if you fold that upwards like that, that will be your basic pie crust. And then you'll need to make another triangle the same size as the bottom of this one to go on top of the crust, if you want the pie to have a top. Obviously you don't have to do this if you want to just leave it open, or if you want to put TLS mixed with white clay to make it look like whipped cream. So you should have those two, like that. And then what I like to do now is put the texture on and put the chalk. So if you just get your chalks and just dab it on there lightly like that, just to make it look like it's been cooked. And the same on this. Obviously you don't have to do the inside of this, but it would be a good idea to do the back and the side, because you won't really see the inside, because your filling will be covering it up, so you won't see it. You can texture it after you've put the filling in though, because otherwise as you start to build your pie it will probably lose the texture, but with the shading it's slightly different. And then after that you're going to need to take your blue clay and pick off little bits of it and roll it into little balls. So if you just put your pie crust to the side when you do this so you don't break it. And you need to make about 20 of these depending on how big your pie is. It doesn't matter if they're not really that neat, because, well, realistic blueberries aren't really that neat anyway. And then once you've made all of these, if you put them in your little container ready to mix your filling. Now you're not going to need that much TLS, liquid clay, but just enough to cover them. So, oops. You probably need about 3 or 4 dollops of it. And then to go with that, if you want your filling to look opaque, then you can use acrylic paint. But because I'd rather have mine looking more realistic, I'm just going to use some chalk, some blue chalk, and scrape off a bit into the pot so that it looks like that. I found that chalk, when it's cooked, you can see the chalk in the bottom there, I found that chalk when it's cooked gives a more kind of transparent look compared with acrylic paint or oil paint, which looks kind of too opaque when it's cooked. So if you just mix this up, I'm probably going to need a little bit more chalk because it's looking quite pastel coloured. So I'm going to add a little bit more chalk, just to make the blue a little bit darker and a bit more realistic. So mix that round. You can't really see it very well, I need to sort out the lighting. And then once you've done that, if you get your pie crust back over, you only need the bottom bit, which has got this bit on it. And really carefully, you don't need to pick up much at a time because it will all fall off and then it will just be really messy. Just carefully place the filling inside and try not to get blue chalk on the back of the crust like I'm doing, because that will just ruin it. It'd be a good idea to have a wet wipe around that you could quickly wipe your hands with, just so you don't contaminate all the colours. So carefully put your filling into the crust, like that. Oops. You don't need to overfill it, because then you'll find that it will probably all just start oozing out and go everywhere and it will just be messy, especially when you put the top of the crust on. It's a bit too bright now. And then you'll have something that looks like that. And what you want to do is get the top of your pie crust and put it on top of there, like that. And make sure you don't press the filling out, but really carefully pinch the top onto the back bit, so pinch it together just to fix it in place, like that. I know it looks kind of squashed, but you can easily reshape it, like that. And if the filling does start to come out the side, you can just get a cocktail stick and push it back in, and hopefully the pie will regain its shape, like that. I think that's a bit better on that side. And then with a toothpick, if you just go along the top of the crust, making little dents like this, to make it look like it's really been cooked, and it is actually a real pie. And then once you've made your little dents on the top, you can also make two little dents in the actual top of the pie, like that, to make it look like that's where you'd put a knife into the pie to let the steam out when it cooks. I'm just putting the filling back in because it came out a bit. And if you want to at this stage, you can add more chalk. I'm going to add a little bit more to mine, just to make it a bit darker here and there, make it look more realistic. And then, because it's got TLS inside, you don't really need to put any TLS on the head pin. But if you were making something that didn't have TLS inside, then you probably would need to use some just to secure the eye pin, unless you choose to use a head pin. So just push the eye pin through the back of the pie, about there, so it's just at the top there, and then that's it. So if you wanted to, you could make other flavours such as cherry or apple, or you could do, like, if you didn't put the top of the crust on, then you could do, like, you could put TLS on the top, and you could do like chocolate ones and different things like that. So yeah, I hope this was useful. If you have any questions, just leave them in the comment section or PM me. So yeah, thanks for watching.